This is tough to say. I actually think if I didn't have my boys, I don't know if I'd be here.
You had these exceptional years. You
crazy.
are one of the fastest humans on the planet.
Why it probably hurts so much and why the dark days were so dark is it all happened so fast, but then all went so quickly as well. I've gone from pisshead student to then moving to Southampton, and within 5-6 months, I'm in the Olympic final. So my boy Teddy was born Group B strep. For 10 days, he was fighting for his life. He looked at me and he said, "Daddy, I don't want to be ill anymore." No, I've got superpowers. Don't tell anyone, it's a secret. And I said, "You've got it as well." And I said, "Because you're a superhero, you have to be ill sometimes, because otherwise it's not fair on the other kids." It's God's way of just making him on a level playing field. You're special, that's why you go to hospital.
Ewan, I'm so happy to see you today. I loved reading your book and I learned a lot about you that I didn't know. The first thing I didn't know about you is that as a child you weren't that bothered about athletics.
No, not at all.
That's quite rare, no? That an
Yeah.
athlete isn't bothered right from the start.
I think in a way it was a good thing, because a lot of kids who have been athletes from a young age and started training and maybe being pushed by the parents, by the time they got to the senior ranks, they're probably bored of it. Whereas I was that hyperactive kid who just loved running around and doing all sport. So I was really annoying. I was cheeky in class, not naughty in a horrible way, but I got away with it because the teachers were like, "Yeah, leave him alone. He's the kid who plays county level football, cross country. He does BMX racing," which was a real cool thing I did from the age of about 9. So yeah, I didn't even like athletics. I did long distance running, but I'd never even tried the 400 metres, or it was just another sport.
Yeah, so with the interesting thing is you had this sort of competitiveness about you, whether you were doing BMX or cross country or rugby, whatever you were playing. You just hadn't found your sport. So with BMX, you were like number 2 in the country as a kid, right?
Yeah, that was weird. All that was my babysitter one night was babysitting. He said, "Oh, you want to get a BMX for Christmas?" And I said, "Why is that?" "I've got one." He goes, "Yeah, it's rubbish. They're building a BMX track in Godmanchester." That was the village I grew up in. And I reckon you could be quite good. So my parents got me a second-hand BMX for Christmas. And literally that season, the track was opened. I was competing like on a, I would say the world stage, but nationally I was right up there. And I ended up going to 2 world championships. I came 4th in a European championships, all from doing a sport that I just loved. Really, if I'm honest, showing off. I knew I could jump the jumps higher than my mates, faster than my mates, and I was better than them. But I kind of think through BMX, I did learn a lot about myself from that very young age. I learned about competition, I learned about disappointment, I learned about failure, but I also learned how addictive winning could be. And it just became, I don't know if I was born with that in me. My brother was really sporty, but he never really made it. He could have done. So what made me different to my brother, I don't know, but I think there's something inside that I've always wanted to be the best that I can be, and I just don't like losing.
Yeah, I guess there's several things that gave you that edge that I was definitely picking up on in the book. One is a sort of sense of fearlessness that you seem to just have. You turned up in the world with, maybe you don't have that so much now. I think all of us with age start to lose that fearlessness, but you seem to just have no fear at the start line, whether it's BMX or 400 metres. You didn't have a fear that was debilitating.
No, even take that to the local playing fields or swimming in the local river, where my mates would say, "Look at that tree. No one's jumped the top branch. It's like 40 foot. I go, "Watch this then." And I would have no fear. I'd go straight to the top of a tree from the age of probably 8 or 9 and just jump off into the murky water below, being scared, but not wanting to show that that fear to them. But no, I think, as you said, it's only when you get older and you realise the consequences of your actions that fear really sets in. I think all young kids, you don't know what pain is, do you? Physically or mental. So you just kind of go for things. And I think from the young age, sport for me, there was probably fear of failure, and that was about it. I was never fearful of hurting myself, or not even so much letting people down, because I was really super confident in my ability. But I didn't have that in the classroom, funnily enough. So I was a really nervous boy. I couldn't read out loud in class. I'd never want to get picked to do any questions stand up at the front. Even when I went to university, I found it really scary to talk in front of a lecture theatre of maybe 20 or 30 people. Whereas fast forward to now, I'll host the World Championships in front of 80,000 and love it, and I'll be disappointed if there's only 30,000. The more, the better. So I've just grown to be more confident within my own self of doing something like that. But as a youngster, sport and me and danger in particular, I had no fear of danger whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, like reading about the BMX jumps that you were doing, that is life or death if you make a jump sometimes. You know, you could break your back, but you were like, I'm going for it, I'm doing it.
Yeah, I wouldn't think of what ifs. You know, what if I fell off? I'd think about how cool is it going to be for my mates to see that I've jumped the triples or whatever it might be. You know, and even little things like jumping at my parents' bedroom window. Or jumping my bike through a bonfire. My dad sat up in the garden and shouting at me, "What are you doing?" You know, I think I almost
don't
wanted
do
to.
that.
Yeah, I wanted to be like a stuntman. I think as a kid, it was really weird. My career choice as a youngster, I said to my mum, "I'm going to be a policeman or a stuntman." That's all I wanted to do. Strange.
Wow, you went off on a big tangent there.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, the one bit of fear that is detectable through reading your book, which I should name check, brutal, is that you didn't want to disappoint your dad.
Yeah.
That seemed to be a real driving force, whether you liked it or not, that was always in the back of your mind when you're on a start line, that you didn't want to disappoint your dad. Where do you think that fear came from?
I think with my dad, it's a strange one because I don't want to sit here and say anything bad about him because it's a different generation, and I think I've also got to look into how was my grandfather, who I unfortunately didn't really know very well, how was he with my dad when he was bringing my dad up? But my dad was very of the generation where winning is everything, or he was military, so he was in the RAF, so he was very driven himself. He grew up in like North London from not wealthy background whatsoever, quite a poor family, and he worked his way up to an RAF group captain, which is the equivalent of a colonel in the army. So my dad's been really successful, and I think from a young age I could sense that from him. I could sense a disappointment if I didn't do well. Now, I don't think he meant that to put pressure on me or to make me scared of not winning, but I think he demanded excellence in everything I did. And if I didn't produce that or deliver that, in my mind, I was letting him down. And it's a weird one because we've never even really addressed this. I've never really spoken to him about it. But I feel in everything I do, rightly or wrongly, I think I could have maybe done better, and my dad will pick up on that. So, for example, fast forward to I win the European Championships. Of course, he's mega proud of me, whereas everyone else will say, "Oh my God, that was amazing." My dad would be the first to say, "I think you could have run a bit quicker on that one. You eased up a bit down the back straight. Could have gone quicker. Next race, pick it up more." So I also think he's like that to me, perhaps, that in my career he didn't want me to become complacent. He didn't want me to think, "Oh, I've made it. I'm Billy Big Bollocks, I'm this, I'm that." Because I never have felt like that. But maybe my dad kept me grounded or tried to keep me grounded by being the way he is. But if he wasn't how he is and is to me now, then maybe I wouldn't have been successful on the athletics track. I don't know. So I think I owe my parents, listen, black and white, I owe my parents everything, because when I finished uni, there was no funding in athletics. The lottery funding wasn't around. And I sat down with my parents and said, "What do you want to do now?" And I was like, "I don't want to get a real job." You know, I didn't say that, but I didn't want to get a real job. And I'd started to run quite well, but not well enough that I was beating the Roger Blacks of this world or even near the Michael Johnsons of this world. But my parents could see I had something. And, you know, I was a second slower than the best in the world, which is a lot, but it isn't a lot. And I thought, if I train every day, so my dad said, "Listen, I'll pay for you to move to Southampton. I'll pay your accommodation for a year. It's the 96 Olympics coming up. You get a part-time job," of which I got myself a job
At Next,
working in Next. So I worked like 8 till 4, 8 till 5, went home, had a bit to eat, went training, and trained my heart out every single session to the point I'm sick every day of the week, just to show my dad I'm trying. And it worked out. But if my dad hadn't financially backed me and helped me, I wouldn't have been an athlete. So for any traits of his that might be deemed a little bit pushy, a little bit strict, I've got to say now, later on in life, he's proven to be an amazing dad. I'm really proud of him.
It's so interesting because I think even if you look at it from the perspective of a parent, I think we all struggle with knowing how to go about that, what the balance is of showing your kids that you've got more in you than you believe you have, but also saying to them, you don't have to stress yourself out. I feel confused about that one constantly with my own kids. If, like, actually, for instance, this morning, my daughter new today, she had athletics and they were doing hurdles, and she's a really good sprinter, but she hates the hurdles, and she was getting herself tied in knots about it, imagining it being the worst, her tripping over and embarrassing herself, all of those things. And part of me wants to go, you don't have to do it. I'll tell the teacher. We'll pull you out of it. But then the other part of me is going, I think you need to give this a go, to try it, to maybe experience failure, but also to prove to yourself that you might just do it. I think it's such a hard one. So I always think hats off to people like your dad for having a very clear focus on what that style of parenting will be, and second guessing how that might impact you, and him hoping for the best, which it turns out it was for you.
I think he had to play bad cop a little bit as well, to a certain degree, because my mum was soft with me. So I'm like that with my kids. I'm the soft one. My partner's the tough one. But my mum is the most loving, amazing person. I'm so lucky to have had my mum. She's awesome. She was like, I'm a blue-eyed boy, you know. Anything I did, it was fine. Sure, my dad would be, no, Ant, he's got to be in the second set at least for maths. It's not good enough. With my mum, he'd be all right in life. So there was a real conflict between my parents growing up, and I remember that. You know, my dad really believed in academia, and that is the way to go. My brother is very academic, and he was a straight A student, went to boarding school from a young age. I didn't. Whereas my dad feared for me, I think, in life, in terms of what I'm going to turn out to be. Am I going to be okay? Whereas my mum could see my personality and everything was great, because I lived at home with my mum. My brother was at boarding school. My dad was away with his job Monday to Friday. So although obviously my dad knew me, but my mum saw the real me 24/7. So I think she could sense I was going to be all right in life, whatever I did. Whereas my dad was like, not sure. His brother's doing so well at school. Where's he going to go? Whereas my mum was, don't worry, it will work out all right. And I would say that to the young me, and I'd say that to my kids, because I am a real worrier in life. Because I did worry, you know, before athletics, you know, what am I going to do? I clearly wasn't going to be as successful as my brother through school and university. And I think, I look back now in life and I think all the mistakes I've made in my life and all the bad things that have happened to me are actually the things that have made me. So I think, you know, going back to your daughter with the hurdles, I bet she'll do really well today. I won't say smash it, that's the wrong terminology. She's not going to smash it.
You don't want her to smash it,
No, I bet, because she's got that fear and she's worried about it. She'll probably, fear's a great thing in sport as well. You do need it, you know. You do need if you haven't got the butterflies, you don't care. So I think she'll do fine. And if not, she'll come back better next time.
Yeah,
you know,
it's such a tricky one.
It is.
And I wonder what your relationship with excellence is today, because when you've got that set in stone from a young age, that there's that expectation that you will do your absolute best and that you could always push it a little bit further. And you were doing that on a global scale, on an international level, where you're in the top, I don't even know what the percentage is, 0 point something percent of people that can run the 400 metres in the most insanely quick time. Over time, as you change as a human, as you age, and your fitness sort of halts to some degree,
goes.
You move it goes. And you move into different areas where you want to start again, but you've still got that niggling feeling that you've got to be the best. Can you let that go? Or is that something that still drives you and pushes you in all areas?
The only thing that's made me chill out with my mindset of having to succeed is my children, which has changed absolutely everything. But before that, I think I went from being an athlete and my career kind of fizzled out and it was bad. I had lots of injuries, lots of dark years, not knowing where I was going to go. I then decided, or actually didn't decide, I fell into the kind of broadcasting world, if you like. And that's a real cutthroat world to someone to go into like me, who does have their downs, because I felt with the athletics, if the selectors didn't like you or not, it didn't really matter. The stopwatch didn't lie. If you run quick enough, they're picking you. You're running for Britain. You're the fastest. You can hate me if you want. I'm the best in that GB vest. I'm getting selected. You then go into the TV world, and I might think I'm the best person for that job, and I think I've nailed that audition, or I think I'm a shoo-in for that job, and someone else gets it, and you sit back at home watching. You went, and you don't mean to be like this, but you can't help it. You judge. Well, I'm better than that. I could have done that. Why didn't I get it? And it just could because they didn't like you. It wasn't the right mix of people for that show, or whatever it might be. But it's really hard to take because there's so much rejection and so many no's. Whereas before I was used to, if my body wasn't letting me down and I wasn't injured, I was used to the door being open from everyone. So that was a really hard one to take, to accept. I might think I'm a really good presenter or a good reporter, whatever it is, but if the execs don't think I am, I'm not getting the job.
It's
So
so
that was quite
harsh.
hard. It's a horrible industry.
I know. That's why I'm not in it much anymore.
No, but it is, isn't it? Because
it's so shit, and also because it's your personality. It's not something that you can change. Because if you want to be yourself and authentic, you just show up as you, and then that's being judged. So it feels like the essence of you is somewhat being pulled apart, and that's a really hard. I mean, I've been in the lowest place, not just because of that, not exclusively because of that critique, but certainly it's pushed me further into a pit of despair of, oh my God, I don't like these things about myself. And now other people are also highlighting them.
Yeah.
So they must be true. And I think it takes a lot to actually go against the grain of that sort of rhetoric. It's really hard. I thought it was really brilliant when I saw the interview you did with Prince Harry, where he was doing a whole mental health campaign with Prince William and the Princess of Wales. And that seemed to be the first time publicly that you'd properly said even the word depression.
Yeah.
How was that to sort of talk about that out loud for the first time?
It was weird because I've got a really good close-knit group of mates who would do anything for me, but I felt I couldn't talk to them ever. So when my career started going downhill and it was evident my body couldn't train more than 2 days a week, which is not good enough, I'm not going to compete on the world stage. I went through years of thinking, well, what am I going to do? And I felt I couldn't talk to my close friends about it because to the outside world, in the materialistic bullshit world, my mates are all really good people. So taxi drivers, my mate Gumbo cuts the grass for the council.
Gumbo!
Just down to earth, good people.
Yeah.
So I felt if I said to them, listen Taxi Tim or listen Gumbo, I'm struggling here. They were, what have you got to struggle about in your 5-bedroom house with your 2 sports cars in the driveway, whatever it might be. And all that is rubbish. It doesn't mean anything to me. But I felt I couldn't turn to the people closest to me because I didn't want to burden them and I didn't want to show any weakness. I've gone from a world where I'm 6'2", 15.5 stone, muscle bound, fast running machine. And if all of a sudden I said, I'm at home actually, I'm injured again and I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm going to do. Who am I? Then I just felt I was showing a weakness to, if I did get back, my rivals would think, well, I've seen him talk about depression. We can get inside his head. And I was the one tough person on the start line you wouldn't mess with. Although I'm the nicest guy, when I raced, I switched. So I felt by showing any weakness to the outside world, I didn't want to admit that I was in a horrible place. And it got so low. And then there I am flipping burgers with Prince Harry. And I just open up. I don't know why. I suppose I thought if he can be honest about his struggles in his life and he's a part of the royal family, then who am I to hide? I owe it to myself and I owe it to other people to be honest. And I couldn't be more ashamed of myself for not being honest sooner, because as soon as I did speak, I felt I'd helped other people. I had lots of people contact me and say, thank you for being honest. I'm struggling as well. And there's loads of people out there who... it doesn't depression or anxiety or whatever it is. It doesn't care if you drive a white van for the council or you're a member of the royal family.
Yeah, and also I think it's so important, and we have to keep reiterating the fact that this conversation for men is newer, and that's a massive shame. Maybe just naturally, and this is maybe a bit of a generalisation, but women do feel like they could say to their best mate, I'm having a bit of a crap time, I don't know what to do, or just sort of open up to someone. Whereas I think for many men out there is still this block that stops them from saying, I'm really struggling here, or even knowing who to turn to. So I think it is a conversation we need to keep having again and again. Would you say that your moments of lowness and moments of depression were all due to circumstance, or do you think there was something in you anyway that maybe you had the propensity to go into a low space regardless of whether you were going through a period of injury or not?
Yeah, I think when I look back at my life, I think I only remember a happy childhood. I can't, I think definitely there's a chemical imbalance somewhere. I think some people are more prone to getting depression, anxiety, low points, whatever it might be. Definitely circumstance did not help. Being injured, being taken out of the arena where it was all about being the best. And then when you aren't the best anymore, it chips away at your self-worth 100%. But I think inside I must have something in me that unfortunately is open to dark days, For me now, I can sense when it's coming now. So for me, going to the gym is my is my happy place. You know, that's the place where I can go to, where no one judges me, and I come back and I always feel great. I've never, for example, come back from a run feeling worse than when I set off. It's a pain in the arse to open the door and take the first couple of
It's the
steps.
worst.
It's horrible. But you come back and you're like, oh, I feel really good.
Yeah.
So for me, if I feel I'm getting low for whatever reason it might be, I can sense it and I'm going training, and I have to. But I think in terms of circumstance or whether it's something innate inside me, I think it's a bit of both. I think, unfortunately, I don't remember it as a kid because I just remember being happy all the time with my mates. But I think probably when I became a teenager, and then anxiety about exams, not living up to my brother or my dad's expectations perhaps, then you start to feel worried. And I'm definitely a worrier, and the smallest little stupid things make me worry.
Yeah.
And I look back now and I think, well, don't worry about that.
I'm like
You can't
that.
control
I'm like
the
that
outcome.
now.
I
find
like that.
It floors me, and I have
Yeah.
to, like, luckily my husband is really chilled and really laid back, and I'll go, I'm really worried about blah, blah, blah. And he's like, just don't worry. Like, he can diffuse it. Thank
Yeah.
God. I'm very lucky that he is not the same as me.
Well,
'cause
you're
I
a great
think
team then together.
We'd be awful
Yeah.
together. But I think you can't underestimate what you went through and the pressure and the publicness of it. I think that just adds so much volume to any self-loathing or dark days, is when you're in that arena with everyone. You know, everyone's got an opinion, everyone thinks they know who you are and what you're about.
Yeah.
And, you know, obviously every athlete has a completely different journey and different experience of success and a different exit door that they have to leave through. Yours felt particularly harsh at times. You had these amazing years like 97 and 1998, which we were just discussing before we started recording, was when we first met back in the 90s on a kids TV show.
Yeah.
Apparently involving some sort of red double-decker bus
Yeah,
or,
yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
But you had these exceptional years where, like you said, the door's opening for you. You
crazy.
are one of the fastest humans on the planet. Unfortunately, you happen to also be around the same time as Michael Johnson,
Yeah.
which was just bad luck.
Yeah, yeah.
Just bad luck.
God damn him.
But you were up there as one of the best athletes on the planet. And I mean, first of all, let's talk about that. What was that like? At 22, you're at the Olympics. I
Yeah.
mean, that must have just been... You'd been training for like a year at this point.
Yeah, not
and
even
you
a
just
year.
left next.
Yeah, no, I'd been training months really. So
Yeah.
I think for me, why it probably hurts so much and why the dark days were so dark is it all happened so fast,
Yeah.
but then all went so quickly as well. So literally, I left university, and my dad said, go to Southampton, give it a go. That year, within maybe 2 races, I'm ranked the 4th fastest Briton ever. And then that year, I went to the Olympics, made the 400-metre final. I'm in lane 8, right next to the crowd. The great Michael Johnson's inside lane 4. And it was just the noise. I thought, you know, I've gone from being, in all honesty, a pisshead student who's out 3 nights a week to then moving to Southampton. And within 5-6 months, I'm in the Olympic final. And it's just crazy. And then we do the relay and we get a silver. And Atlanta, if people remember, was the worst Olympics for Great Britain ever. Like, medal haul was disgraceful. That's why the lottery funding came in the next year. But from a pure selfish point, the fact that Britain did so badly, but yet here I am straight out of uni, I come away with a silver medal in the relay. I went from working in Next to signing a 4-year deal with a shoe company worth a lot of money. And it was like, what the fuck is happening? Like, literally, oh my God. You know, I went from living in a horrible little bedsit to buying a house. You know, everything changed. And I'm not talking like footballers' wages or anything, but really good. Going from, well, I don't know, £4 an hour to signing big deals. And it was just like, but that didn't matter to me. That was just a consequence of running fast. But there I was, I'm on the world stage and I'm rubbing shoulders with the Michael Johnsons of this world. And I think it's only going to get better. And then 97, I got the British record, which stood for 25 years. Off the back of that, I get a Madame Tussauds wax. Well, I mean, all this kind of stuff is mental.
Yeah.
That was the second athlete ever at the time behind Jesse Owens to be voted to be in Madame Tussauds. I got an MBE, and my mate Gumbo and Tim were like, they're like, what the hell, what's going on? So I don't know. And it kind of just went from, I believed I could be good. I believed I had the ability. I mean, listen, I think genetically I was right for the 400 metres, you know, the long rangey stride length. And more than that, not afraid of hard work, I fucking loved it.
Yeah.
And that became a problem because I was addicted to the pain of training, as silly as it sounds. Like, where I trained in Southampton, there's 3 car parks. There's one right at the track, there's one about a 5-minute walk, and there's one at the top of the ski centre, which is something like 87 steps from the bottom to the top. And all my mates would go, why on earth do you park at the ski centre? And to them, I'd just go, I prefer it, it's a bit more private. The honest truth is, I knew at the end of doing a session of 6 300s, when I've already been throwing up afterwards for an hour, Mark Richardson, Jamie Boyce, Roger Black, they wouldn't then walk up a load of steps, probably stop twice more to be sick, their quads burning when they get in the car. So in my eyes, I've trained harder than anyone. And not only that, I've had to walk up a load of bastard steps before I get into my car. So I would do it because I pushed myself that little bit more. And I think now I look back with hindsight, I pushed my body too much. I trained too hard. And a lot of my injuries were self-inflicted purely because of that desire to be the best and to beat Michael Johnson and to make people proud. All of it comes back to, I think, at the time to start with, getting my father's acceptance, but then it became the acceptance of the British public. The people down the street would stop me going, okay, nice one, I watched you race last night, amazing. And as great as that felt, it then felt when the injuries came in, I was letting everyone down.
Oh, but that is such a lot to carry on your back, that you're
horrible.
not just doing it for your own pleasure or goal setting. It's all of this shit that you're having to carry. And we should just point out that the 400 metre race is known as the death race.
Yeah.
It is the hardest race because you're sprinting, but it's essentially long distance. It's not a quick 9 seconds and you're done.
God.
It's the whole bloody track. I mean, do you think there is something in your personality, like you're describing with this need to push yourself to your vomiting on the steps? Is there something in you that likes to pick the hardest route? You picked the hardest race. You pushed your body to the nth degree. Is there something in you that needs to struggle?
Maybe. I'm just thinking out loud. Maybe it's a form of, I hate saying it, but maybe it's a form of self-harming. Maybe it is just a self-hatred. I don't know. I mean, the truth is I did the 400 because I won that by the biggest margin on sports day. I'd rather have been a 200 metre runner, but I wasn't good enough at 200. But yeah, maybe. There's certainly something special about the 400 where you're coming up the home straight and it's 30 metres to go and you're looking across and you're all fucked. It's all now who wants it the most, who can embrace the pain, who loves lactic acid and doesn't pussy out, with all due respect. And that is what I loved. I loved putting myself on the line against, questionably and arguably, the other best, strongest, fastest people in the world. So I loved getting back to that warm-up track afterwards and laying on my back for maybe 40 minutes afterwards before I could move, just thinking, I did it. And equally, other days when I didn't, thinking, this hurts. Not only does it hurt, the feeling of the lactic going through my body, but the pain of I've just let myself down and I can't wait for Thursday because I'm racing again in Zurich and those Americans are going to get it. I just loved pitting myself against the best to try and be the best that I could be. Maybe it is a form of, I don't know, maybe because I'm still like it a little bit now,
But where does that go now? Like, where does that energy, what are you putting that into now? If you've still got that drive to feel the burn, feel the pain, push yourself, what are you doing with that?
Well, I can't physically do what I used to do, but I'll always try and push myself. So in January this year, I did my first ever I train in a strongman gym, basically. I train in a gym where the women and men are all, I say this carefully, but all big burly people who do the Atlas stones, who lift the logs. There's not one mirror in my gym. It's not, I feel good about myself, get on the treadmill. There's none of that. It's a proper grafters gym. And they did like a novice strongman competition in January. And I thought, I'll do that. And I'm up against 20-year-olds and I'm 50. And I absolutely smash them all.
Yes.
And I just feel great. And then rewind 3 years ago, I had a bet with a mate of mine that she bet I couldn't do an ultra marathon. So I was like, what's an ultra? They said anything over marathon distance. She said you could do a 50-mile race and people would well respect you. But if you want to be known as a double-hard bastard, you want to do the Centurion South Downs Way, 100 miles, a third of the height of Everest. I said, I'll do it. She goes, you can't do that. Yes, I can. And I did it. Very slowly. But I did it.
I mean, this narrative is threaded through the whole of your book, which is chronological, bar these little inserts where you talk about this horrendous 100-mile race that you took part in, which sounded not only almost impossible, but terrifying because you're running at night in the pitch black.
Yeah.
But what we should mention is that you had a deeper incentive. This wasn't, at this point, just about you pushing yourself to the point of puking and feeling physical pain. let's talk about your son Teddy and that motivation that felt like something completely new in the mix for you.
Yeah, this was never a race I was going to win. I was never going to be competitive, and it was never about me. So my boy Teddy was born Group B strep, and we'd never even heard of that. So when he was born, he was fine, amazing. I was so proud. I burst into tears. I couldn't believe I was a dad. Went home. 4 hours later, I get a call saying, "Quick, he's stopped breathing. He's in intensive care." And I was like, "What? You've made a mistake. I've just seen him." And so I went back, and yeah, basically for 10 days he was fighting for his life in intensive care with a infection we'd never even heard of. 1 in 10 babies who survive and come out of hospital will still die. The majority, I don't know the percentage, will be brain damage, have cerebral palsy, lots of lifelong complications. And luckily, Teddy's pretty much okay. He has a few respiratory issues and he's been back in hospital quite a lot. But he came out okay. But I just felt from that point, I had to do something to raise awareness for this horrible illness, this horrible threat to a little baby that we weren't even aware of. So I decided to do the 100-miler on the one condition I could publicise Group B Strep Support, a charity who helps families deal with their loss or the fact that their child's got Strep B. So I did the race with a picture of Teddy in my pocket, and I had written on my arm, "For those less fortunate." And that's what got me to the finish line, knowing that if I could just reach one family, if I could just get the message out to one pregnant mother-to-be, please get tested. There's something called Strep B out there and it can be harmful to your baby. Then I didn't give a shit about the pain I went through. And in fact, I did go through a lot of pain. I couldn't run for 2 years afterwards. I broke my foot. I was in absolute agony, but I knew I wouldn't quit. I knew I'd get to that finish line because I had to. I owed it to every pregnant woman out there, every family to be, to try and tell them about this horrible illness that could affect them.
Yeah, well, it's a lot more common than any of us believe, and it's not something...
One in four women naturally carry this bacteria without even knowing, and they won't necessarily pass it on to their child, to their unborn baby, but if they do, it's devastating. It can be devastating.
I mean, it's essential that these things are talked about, because again, it could so easily get missed and you just don't know about it or hear about it, and then you end up in the situation that you guys were that sounded unbelievably heartbreaking and stressful. And also, even when you were in the middle of that race, you found out that Teddy had been hospitalised during... You're running this bloody 100-mile thing and you know that your little boy's gone to hospital. I mean, awful.
He met me at mile 25, 26, so about marathon distance. They met me at an aid station. So I gave him a hug and he wasn't himself. He was really pale and quite limp and he was coughing a lot. And I said to my partner, "Is he all right?" And she said, yeah, he's fine. Don't worry, he's just got a bit of a cough. He'll be fine. And I ran on and I knew he wasn't fine. So I got to about mile 50 and I spoke to my mate Susie, who was help crew me. So from mile 50, you allow people to help you. Someone run alongside you. So I said, what's the situation with Teddy? He's not all right. She goes, yeah, he's fine. He's fine. And I stopped. I said, just don't lie to me. I know he's not. She said, okay, he's been rushed into hospital. He's not okay. Now, I had a massive decision then to make because this was during COVID, so only one parent was allowed in hospital anyway. So I thought, right, do I stop now? Bearing in mind that I'm in the middle of nowhere, like literally nowhere, try and get to a village, get a taxi and get back to Southampton, or do I finish the race for Teddy? And I go on to the finish line, get to the finish line as quick as I can, then I'll get home to Teddy. But that really was the worst time ever in terms of it was night time, it was getting dark. I didn't know where I was disorientated anyway. Then I had that horrible decision to whether to stop and use the word quit, which I don't like anyway, or finish for my boy. So I finished for him.
And he's now, how old? Five. And so he still has some health complications. He's in hospital.
I'm going to touch wood it. He's much, much better. So his immune system was really, really damaged. So normally where most children would go to nursery and come back and get a cold, they're better 4 days later. He'd be ill for about a month to 6 weeks with a chest infection every time he's ill. So he's constantly on steroid-based inhalers and all sorts of antibiotics and bits and pieces. But this year, he's had literally one bad stint, and that is it. So he's a little strong trooper. So I think so naturally he's getting stronger and he's fighting it. So when he gets ill now, he'll be ill for like 5 days and he's good.
But he's at the age, it seems, where he sort of understands what's going on. Like there was a conversation in the book where he's saying, "Oh, why am I always ill, Dad?" And that must be really hard to know what to say to him or how to encourage him and to help him through that.
Well, I remember one night he was up because he coughs so much he can't breathe, and then he's sick, and he just can't get any air in. So he was being sick, and I remember one time he just looked at me and he said, "Daddy, I don't want to be ill anymore." And it's hard. I mean, what do I say? He was 4 when he said that. What? I mean, how can I take that away? But what I do say to him now is when we are in hospital getting tests done, and he says, "Why me, Daddy? You know what? Why am I always here?" And I just say, well, I tell him I'm a superhero anyway, and he thinks I am. So I show him videos of me running. He said, "God, Daddy, you used to win." I went, "I've got superpowers. Don't tell anyone, it's a secret." And I said, "You've got it as well." He said, "Does Dougie, my brother, have it?" He said, "He doesn't have it." And I said, "Because you're a superhero, you have to be ill sometimes, because otherwise it's not fair on the other kids. If you didn't have these problems, you'll be so much faster than everyone, so much stronger. Then you've got to give them a chance." So I sell it to him that it's God's way of just making him on a level playing field, because he's so much better to start with. And that's how I say to him, "You're special. That's why you go to hospital."
Oh, little Teddy.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that he's doing well, though.
He's amazing.
So
Honestly,
glad.
my boys,
You've got three
three
boys
boys now. 3 boys, Dougie, Teddy and Bowie, who's like 16 weeks old. And
16 weeks?
Yeah.
Oh my
Proper
God.
new. Yeah.
You got a newbie.
A newbie.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, I think, this is tough to say, but I actually think if my life hadn't changed, and if I didn't have my boys, I sometimes don't know if I've never said this, I don't know if I'd be here. They are my life, and everything I went through as an athlete, good and bad, it's all totally nothing compared to being with my boys. You know, my medals, my boys sometimes, like Teddy will say, "You've got a medal." I don't even look at my medals, but they're my medals. Like, my boys they saved me. They saved me, I think. Definitely, because when I feel down or anything now, they're my reason to somehow get out of that low. They're my reason to give all my love goes to my boys, like everything. And when people talk about lockdown and COVID, and it was horrific. I lost my friend Aaron to COVID, and it was a tough time. But apart from that and the hell it brought so many families, for me it was the best thing that ever happened, because I was home all the time. Work dried up, and I was at home doing all the DIY crap jobs I said I'd do for years, putting them off. I end up doing stuff around the house, which I've been promised I'd do. But I was with Teddy every day.
Yeah.
And Teddy doesn't understand, like, when I do work now, he doesn't understand it. So normally, if I work, it'd be for longer periods. So to go to the World Champs, to host those in America or Paris this year, whatever it is. But he doesn't understand that most mummy and daddies go to work every day in the morning, and they come back at 5 or 6 in the evening, because I'm around so much. He thinks that's the normal. But I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful. And I came into fatherhood really late. Like, I'm 50, I'm old. And lots of my mates had kids when they were younger, but it wasn't right for me. It wasn't the right time. I was so selfish as an athlete. I wasn't a nice person.
I mean,
in many ways.
You have to be selfish.
You
no?
do.
Would you say, can you get to the world stage in athletics and not be pretty single-minded? I'm assuming that you have to be.
You have to be, but you could be a father as well. I remember in '94, my first championships, Commonwealth Games. I'm sharing with Jamie Bolsh, my good mate, and he found out at the time his then partner Susanna was pregnant with her first child, and I just thought, our lives are miles apart here, but we're the same age and we're doing the same job. Oh, it's not even a job, is it? We're doing the same thing we love, you know. But yeah, you make do. But I look at people like Jamie and Darren Campbell, who had kids while they were still athletes. I think, how on earth did you do that? I mean, I'm knackered now from having to get up twice in the night. You know?
It's exhausting. Yeah,
it's life changing. It's so horrible in many ways, but it's amazing.
Yeah,
parenthood is the best thing ever, and I genuinely think, as I said, if it wasn't for my boys, they got me on the right path, I think, and they made me like myself again as well.
Yeah, do you know what? It's a subject that we haven't touched on, and something that you talk about in the book a few times, and I think one of the most relatable subjects we can talk about is self-loathing, because nearly everyone that we know, everyone listening to this, will have had bouts of it, if not experience it daily. I go through massive bouts of it. Less so probably today, but I can so easily get sucked back into it. And I'll probably be in it for about a week, where I want to jump out of my own skin. I'm such in this sort of low self-loathing feeling. It's the absolute pits. It obviously can come paired with depression, anxiety, all sorts of things. And it can very much live on its own. And it is hideous to experience. Yours, a lot of the time, was tied up in either injury, not being able to race, having to watch races that you were meant to be in
Yeah.
on the TV, excruciating, or not coming in the top 3. That seemed to really trigger this sort of sense of self-loathing. Where are you at with that today?
I'm way better. But I think at any walk of life, you know, you can have days when people judge you, or worst of all, as you said, you judge yourself and you feel bad about yourself. And for people who don't get it, they're like, well, just snap out of it. Well, you know, you're all right. Well, you got to feel bad about. But it's so difficult when you get into that pit, that despair, and you think there's no way out. And eventually you'll have a good day, then a bad day, a bit of a better day, and you'll love it. You're, for me anyway, I know I'll get out of it, but I'm also not stupid enough to know it's around the corner as well. A bad day can come back at any time, and it could be the most insignificant little thing that will set me off. And I think afterwards, why did I let that trigger it? But it will, and it does. So I think people who are going through something like that, first of all, realise you won't be alone in your feelings. And the one regret I have is not speaking to people, not reaching out, or not being honest. I put on this facade of like, you know, I went out with my mates drinking on Friday, for example, and I always feel I have to be at the front of the jokes, or like looking out for everyone else. And, you know, sometimes that means I don't look out for myself. You know, I've got friends now who are going through stuff, and life can be cruel. It can be horrible. I've got a mate of mine whose wife has got cancer. My mate's dad is terminal at the moment, you know, and I feel I'm looking out for them and checking they're all right. And I know they do the same for me, but I think sometimes you can take on too much.
Yeah.
And then you have to somehow find your happy place, your place which can help get you slowly out of your pit. And for me, as I said, it's the gym, it's going for a run, or it's being with my boys, you know, taking them to soft play, which I curse and I hate soft play.
Oh, soft play is
but
so
I know,
awful.
I know, but they like it.
They love it,
They
and
like
you just
it.
got to go with it.
You go with it. They're going to pick up all sorts of bugs, and it's disgusting.
It's so loud and
it is.
gross, but they are happy as pigs
Yeah.
in shit. So you got to do it. You got to
You imagine how I feel, right? So, well, I'm sure for you as well, anyone who's put themselves first. I went from a lifestyle where it was all about me, right? And as horrible as this is, I ruined previous relationships. I was an arsehole because if I didn't get from A to B as quickly as I could because something was in my way, I would eliminate that out of my life, yeah, because it was all about me, and that was horrible. So I've gone from that life where it was all about me, packing my little rucksack, going on a little plane, racing in Zurich, coming home, going off somewhere else the next. Now I'm in soft play, listening to that, it's fucking killing me. The noise goes through me, and the little kids jumping around and mess everywhere. And I think, where's my life gone? But actually, then I have to have a word for myself. This is my life now, and it's a better life.
It's so
you know, it's
lovely.
different, but it's a great life because, you know, and also what I love about being a dad as well. You know, I talk. I hope not harshly, but in my book I do talk about how strict my dad was. But God, he's a great granddad. He's amazing with my kids. And I think, well, I know, at my birthday this year, my 50th, I had a little party, and my dad took to the mic, and I didn't think he was going to speak. And he said some stuff there, and honestly, I could die tomorrow and I'm happy, because he said things that I didn't know he felt about me. And it was so lovely to hear. He stood up and he admitted his own faults, and he said in front of a room full of people, and more importantly me, he just said that I'm an amazing dad. When he sees me with his children, he said, I only wish I'd been more like that with him.
Wow.
And I regret I was not as he is with his children, because he's a bloody amazing dad. And for him to say that, and he was an amazing dad, he was just different, you know, and it was his way. And back then that probably was the correct way of parenting, I don't know. But to see how he is with my boys now, his face light up when I FaceTime him, or when the boys go back and he's going, I'm taking them down to the park. You know, my dad's like 80-year-old man now, but he's good for his age, and he's still got lots of energy left, and he's got a lot of love to give. And the love he shows my boys, I'm proud of him. And I don't have any resentment towards how he was to me as a child, because, you know, I think he did and acted however he felt was the best way to act to get the best out of me. And he got the best out of me, 100%.
But I think it's so powerful hearing a parent say all the stuff you hope they feel. Because I think sometimes we assume that those feelings where we need to please our parents, we want to do the best to sort of prove to them that we're thriving or we're succeeding, whatever it is. they live on and on. They're not exclusive to childhood. As you move into your adult years, you can feel you're still driven by the same. And I've spoken to so many people who have experienced this, their parents have died, but they still feel it. They haven't got that pressure or that expectation with a parent who's alive, and they're still feeling it. So I think to actually have some sort of peace, perhaps, in hearing the words that you've longed for, that's huge.
Oh, it was massive.
That's a huge moment.
Honestly, it was unbelievable. Like, because in previous times, say for example, I remember in 2014, I interviewed David Cameron on the One Show, the Prime Minister at the time, and my dad sent me a formal email. He calls me Ski. Ski, very good interview. Loved that question. And I knew, because my mum told me, all his mates were calling him up saying, I saw him on the One Show, interview the Prime Minister. But it's always been very formal with my dad. But to hear him actually say those words at my birthday,
From the heart,
in front of everyone, it was awesome. Yeah, my dad's very much of like, you know, when I've been to visit them, drive safe journey home. When I'm like, come in, I give him a hug. Yeah. And, you know, and it's just, as I said, it's just his way. It's just his way.
Yeah.
But my parents have been brilliant parents to me and my brother. I've been very, very lucky. So when he said, I mean, I know my mum loves me to bits, right? My mum don't have to say that. I can see it because she's different to my dad. But when my dad said that, it just, honestly, it was like the endorphins in my brain, everything just went, it's all right now. I just want them to feel that love. And I want them to know. And also, this is going to sound really morbid, but I really feel my age now in terms of, I feel great, but I also am very self-aware that anything can happen at any time in life. My mortality, I'm aware of it because I've lost friends. Over the last sort of 4 or 5 years, I've lost a couple of good friends at a young age. And I just think, you don't know what's around the corner. So I don't live with any regret. I know if I was to go tomorrow, my boys know they had the dad who loved them more than any other dad in the world. You know?
That's so lovely to hear, because I did wonder, reading the book, if there were some what ifs still. And I think most people, I think, have a couple of what ifs. Like, what if I had done that thing? Or I think for me personally, mine are probably what ifs. What if I hadn't done that thing? Do you know what I mean? I think a lot of us have that. What if I hadn't done that? Life would have been so much easier.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't be who I am today, but life would have been easier. And I think we all live with that day to day. You can call them regrets or what ifs, whatever. Do you feel that about, let's just compartmentalise it, your athletics career? Because
100%.
you had those moments of absolute glory and sadly injury took you out of it, and you didn't get to have your final goodbye or final hurrah. How do you make peace with those what ifs?
I had to have counselling about that. I'll be honest, I had to go and seek professional help, because that chance of not being able to close a door on my own terms was killing me. The fact that I'd reached that height and then my body let me down, and I kept trying to get back. A little glimmer of hope, I might get back. No, you're injured again. And I never had the chance to say goodbye to the people, say goodbye to myself, get that self-worth and being able to do that little lap of honour and say, right, I finished my career. It finished all right, you know. And I went through years of resentment. This is totally bad and selfish of me, but I would look at athletes even up to 2012 and I think, you do not know how lucky you are, you bastards, to be in the peak of your performance, your prime of your career, in front of a home crowd. I would have given anything just to be able to say goodbye. Hope I've served you all well. But because it was taken away and my career fizzled away, it was like, I used to be a good runner, that guy. What happened to that bloke? And that's how it felt, because I didn't have my final closure. It was like, I don't know, it's like I'd studied all my life and then I got to the end of year exams and I got hit by a bus and I couldn't, you know what I mean? And I couldn't have closure. And all I wanted to ever do was to sort of say thank you to the British public for their support. And I felt that I robbed them of that and robbed myself of that nice ending to my career. And it took a long, long time to deal with that. And actually, I look back now and I think perhaps all the dark years and all that horrible feeling inside of not having that closure, maybe that's made me a better dad. You know, I try and find goodness in everything, and maybe if I had, let's just say maybe my career had gone like amazing. Johnson retires, I become the Olympic champion, you know, I smashed the European record, I'm then the world champion, I'm all that. Maybe, and I don't think this would have happened, but maybe I'm an arsehole, yeah? Maybe I'm some superstar athlete who's got everything he ever wanted, and I look down on people and I treat people like shit. that wouldn't have happened, but it could have happened, and that's not me. I've got the same mates I've had since I was 11 years old. I know what it's like to hurt. I know what it's like to have to try and reinvent myself and work again and earn a living. So I think maybe I'd like to think that things do happen for a reason. Yes, it would have been lovely to have that closure and to finish on my own terms. But just perhaps if I had had that, I wouldn't be the person I became, and I wouldn't be the dad. For me, it's all about being the best dad in the world.
Yeah.
Everything. And I try and, think back to moments in my career, good and bad, which have made me hopefully the better person. And I can honestly say it's always the bad times that I've learnt more from than the good times. You know what it's like when life's going well, you take it for granted. Yeah,
of course.
I've won a race. Yeah, I've run a British record. Oh, it's wicked. Yeah, it's cool. What's next? Madame Tussauds, lovely. What's next? NBA. Things were coming to me so fast. It was only when you've just fucked up the World Championship final, you've come sixth in a race you probably could have won it. I'm devastated. I'm distraught through the next winter training. I've got pain in my tummy, but the fire is in my belly because of that. I then turn the pain and the hatred towards myself of tactically running so badly into a positive, into, right, this season, I'm not feeling like that again. I'm never going to run so badly in a major championship final because I know the pain it caused me. So I learned from the mistake. And perhaps it's the same with things, relationships, or being a dickhead in the real world, things I've done which I now regret. But actually, maybe if I hadn't done those things, I wouldn't be where I am now. And
Also,
don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I'm in the world's happiest place all the time and life is great, because it's not, because I still get my down days, but at least I know how to deal with it now.
Completely. And I think we've all got this strange belief that people who reach the top, which you did anyway, because as we said, you're in this tiny percentage of people that are on the world stage as one of the fastest runners on the planet. But I think we always think people that reach the top, whether it's in TV or sports or business, whatever sector it is, that they must feel something that we don't. That because they are called the number one, they've won the Oscar, they've got the Olympic gold, whatever it might be, they are the CEO of the biggest company, they must feel something that we can't access. I think it's utter bollocks.
No.
Out of all the people that I've met who are top of their game, the biggest actors in the world, whatever it might be, they're no happier. No. They don't feel any different. If they do, they're probably slightly deluded or a bit of a knobhead. But the majority of people don't feel any different. They're still reaching for something. They're still trying to climb a little bit higher, searching for whatever that thing is that they don't feel they've got hold of. So I wonder if you would feel any different at all.
No. Do you know what? Some of the happiest people I know and the nicest people I know on the outside world, they've got nothing. Yeah. So there's friends of mine, and I won't name them, but there's people I know and friends of mine, I would call them middle of the road people. Yeah. Not very ambitious, haven't got the drive that I certainly had, that you've clearly got, but they're happy. Their mortgage is paid every month. They go on one holiday a year and they're happy. They don't have a Rolls Royce. They don't go to the fancy restaurants. They don't have any of that, but they're really good people. And I tell you what, they're the people who would give me their last penny if I needed it. That's true, honestly. All the people I know, the nicest, happiest people, I would say you would deem that they're not the most successful people. And that's all right. Maybe that's all right.
It depends what you think success is,
exactly.
Doesn't it?
Maybe you don't have to draw your bar. Maybe your bar's not that high in life. Maybe your bar's there, and if you reach that, you're mega happy. But if you're always searching for the bar that's too high, you're never going to be content. And that's where I was at in my life, because I was always searching for the next best thing, the next time, the faster race. You know, I was always searching for the next best thing, trying to keep up the Joneses, when in reality, the Joneses aren't happy. You don't want to be the Joneses.
Happy.
You don't want to be them.
Miserable, the Joneses.
Yeah, but do you know what I mean? I think you just need to find that place in life when you're surrounded yourself with good people. I mean, I made a conscious decision a couple of years ago to get rid of a couple of people in my life who were a little bit draining, a bit deadwood.
Bit of life laundry.
Yeah. So I just thought I'd try and surround myself with people who don't judge and are just good people and care about it. The friends who phone me and go, how are you doing? Are you all right?
Yeah.
Because I always feel I'm the one looking out for others. I've got mates of mine who check on me all the time, and they're the salt of the earth. They're the real people. So I think you're right. I think the most successful people in the world aren't going to be the happiest, because if they've reached it to the deemed top, where's their next top going to come from? You can only get to the height of Everest. There's nowhere higher. But for them, they were always searching for higher. I've got mates who are entrepreneurs who are very financially successful, but are they happy? Don't know.
No.
Probably not.
No, I think you can't buy inner peace, can you?
No.
It's something you've got to discover, and it's been really lovely talking to you today about it. And
Is that
reading
already?
We've done like an hour,
Have we?
babes. Yeah.
My God, it's been so nice.
It's gone really quick.
Yeah.
But this is the thing, because I think when you're chewing this stuff over, it's like this is big shit that we're talking about here.
It's like free counselling for me. This is.
Well, me too. And this is why I do the job. I get to do it every week. It is, but it does whiz, because it's a brilliant subject to talk about.
Honestly, it feels like I've been talking to you for 10 minutes.
I know. It's wild. But it's so brilliant. And I think from a male lens, we need to hear this more often. We need to hear about. And I like the fact that you're being completely honest today and saying, yeah, I'm not like fixed, sat here going everything's sunny. We all are going to go through tough times and dark days, and that is completely normal. We need to normalise that as much as possible.
Let me just quickly tell you something quickly about sunny days and maybe a bit of self-loathing and self-doubt. I came here this morning and I genuinely thought, your podcast is mega, right? And you're brilliant. You get some amazing people. I thought, you fucking put the wrong person. Did you think I was Greg Rutherford or something? No, genuinely, I doubted myself this morning. I was like, what am I going to wear? Is this too much?
It's a great shirt.
Yeah, but
it's a great shirt.
I had those doubts.
But we all have that, don't we?
We do. So what I'm saying is, today is a great day. I'm going home absolutely buzzing because I've enjoyed speaking to you and I've loved being on here. But it's not saying tomorrow I might not wake up with a little bit of chink in my armoury thinking, did yesterday happen? Did you come across all right? Did you? So what I'm saying, we all have days when it will bite you on the arse. But just remember, you get through it. And you will get through it. And to any bloke listening or watching who feels they can't talk, my massive regret in life is not talking sooner, because it's all right not to be all right. And we all know that now, and it's a bit more accepted. But there still are blokes out there, the blokey blokes, who think, I can't talk to no one, I'm all right, I'm a geezer. No, if you're not all right, talk.
Yeah, words of wisdom that we all need to hear. Thank you, Ewan.
Thank you for having me on. And sorry if you thought I was Greg Rutherford.
I didn't think you were Greg Rutherford, for God's sake. No, also for me, I'm a tinsy bit younger than you, but
you're a lot younger than me.
No, I'm not.
You've got to be at least 10 years younger than me.
No, I'm 42.
Well, yeah.
But turning 43 this summer. But when I was a small kid, the Olympics especially were everything. I don't know, are they as big these? I know they're big, but because we only had 3 TV channels, we were glued. So all sort of sporting heroes from my childhood, I still have that sort of nostalgia about watching the European Championships or the Olympics and just feeling such a part of it, and it being like bloody Lympha Christie, who you reference loads in the book, and Sally Gunnell. They were like my heroes growing up. Do you know what I mean?
Imagine them within a year. I'm their teammate. I'm like, what on earth is going on? I watched them, winning Barcelona.
It's insane.
And then a couple of years later, I'm their teammate going, hang on a minute.
But that aside, I think it's so important that we talk about Strep B and also that we talk about male mental health. So I massively appreciate you covering both those subjects
today,
because it will help people, and it's really brilliant.
So. Thank you for letting me talk. And
thank you, Ewan.
I've loved being here. Thank you.